The American Society of Magical... I'm not going to say it. It's described as a fresh, satirical comedy about a young man who is recruited into a secret society of magical black people who dedicate their lives to making white people's lives easier. Yeah, super fresh, guys, alrighty. They always throw that word in there, fresh. Like, look how new and unique what we're doing is. Yeah, so Key and Peele did this first and it was probably better, but we can't say for sure yet.
There can be only one magical Negro!
I can say that when they throw the word fresh in the description, I automatically think it's definitely not fresh. I mean, every movie should be fresh, right? If not, it's intellectual property theft. Every movie is its own movie, is my point. Some movies are similar to other movies, and this film appears to be a comedy. Maybe a romantic comedy type thing, involving magic. Don't think any of those ideas are particularly fresh. Or maybe by fresh, they're referring to further pushing this cultural divide between white people and black people. But I don't think that's a particularly fresh trope either. Frankly, I'm tired of this sort of thing. It's actually the opposite of fresh. In my opinion, it's quite overdone in modern film and television. But that's just my opinion. Maybe we're due for this sort of thing, or maybe the film will be outstandingly fresh. But I doubt it. If you're watching this video, I'd say you're likely aware of some of the public backlash to the trailer. In the trailer, white people are referred to as, quote, the most dangerous animal on the planet when they're uncomfortable.
What's the most dangerous animal on the planet?
Shark.
White people, when they feel uncomfortable.
So that's racist, right? Probably a little racist. My initial reaction was a cringe. Just a cringe. I didn't really know if I should be offended or not. See, I think that in comedy, any group can be made fun of. That's what makes it comedy. Nothing is off limits. So if the state of the world were a little different, I probably wouldn't have cringed at all. But I did, because, well, do I even need to say it? I'm gonna say it. If this was a white person saying the same thing about any group of color, or just a minority group, the response would have been much different. There would be outrage. Make no mistake, unbridled outrage. We know this because we've seen this. We've seen the outrage of things that are perceived as racist or offensive to minority groups. They are somewhat off limits. I mean, they're not, but people know the response would be negative, so they kinda are. So I suspect this is why my initial response was a swift cringe. Dare I even say slightly offended. I try and ground myself in the notion that in the world of comedy, nothing should be off limits, so I can't get offended. But that doesn't mean I don't consider how long it's been since we've seen it pointed in the other direction. It's not a coincidence. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. did blackface in Tropic Thunder and it was freaking hilarious. But you don't see that sort of thing anymore.
Yeah, right? You was farting in bathtubs, laughing your ass off.
90% of my black friends are like, dude, that was great.
And by the way, I'm not talking about blackface. That's a bit much. Just comedy and film and television directed at minority groups. So naturally, given the state of the world, my response to that particular line in the trailer, and really the synopsis in general, is that this is racist. But am I allowed to say that? Since it's directed toward white people, am I allowed to be offended? Obviously, yeah. But I bring this up because this sort of thought process isn't something I've had to think about for a very long time. At least not in the entertainment space. It's been conditioned into me by the media. A media that, in my opinion, seeks to divide, bring attention to the things that separate us rather than what makes us the same. This is a far longer list, I might add. In modern film and cinema, really in the last few years or so, we've seen a rise in things like race-swapping classic characters for literally no reason other than, look what we did, aren't we modern and accepting and virtuous? Representation riding shotgun while quality takes a back seat. Race swapping, an influx, and diverse representation, these aren't bad things. I mean, race swapping characters for any reason at all just seems pointless to me, but whatever. And an influx in diversity and representation in television and film is probably a net good, but not at the cost of quality. What I mean is, motives matter. You can certainly argue that they don't when the result is a net positive, but I tend to believe that when huge companies like Disney and others push this sort of thing, it's not because it's the right thing to do, it's by mandate. It's because they have to do it, they need to look virtuous. And I don't just believe this, I know this is true, at least to some effect, given that the new Academy Awards representation and inclusion standards exist. I mean, literally by mandate. Make your movies this way, or you ain't getting no awards. This may seem like a bit of a tangent, and it sorta is, but I'm really just trying to show how not fresh this is. It's the opposite of fresh. It's overdone, and it's annoying at this point. I don't wish to stoop to the level of those who are offended by every little or big thing, especially in the entertainment space. We live in a world where nearly everything can be construed as offensive, and at first, an acknowledgement of what is and isn't offensive was probably a good thing. But it's turned into this. Movies like this. They get made, a trailer drops, and people are up in arms, attacking one another. When really, in the comedy space, nothing should be off limits. But once again, to play devil's advocate with myself, they referred to white people as dangerous animals. And I have an inkling, just an inkling, that if a white person referred to black people as dangerous animals, that person would never work in Hollywood again. And that's a problem. When doing a little bit of research for this video just to see what this movie was all about, I read some articles reporting on the trailer and reception to the trailer and so on. Expecting to see white people offended or sensitive white people, I actually saw some fairly objective takes on this. I mean, again, if it was the other way around, I'm sure the articles would look different. But mainly news outlets reporting on trailer reception being negative and why and so on. There was one article I read that spoke about black people on Twitter having a negative reaction to the trailer, which just goes to show that a lot of people are tired of this sort of thing, not just white people. Another one coming from The Root, name dropping them because the article was so bad, basically just kept reminding the reader, it's satire, don't you get it? It's a joke, the magical black person trope, don't you get it? It's satire. Yes, we all get it. We get the joke. We're aware that it's a comedy and aware of the trope and so on. People aren't mad because they don't get the joke. They're mad because this sort of thing can't go the other way, which in turn makes it kinda racist. And frankly, the clueless, unwitting white person trope is overdone. It's not fresh, it's not new, it's gonna tank. Thanks for watching. I really like making these and I'd like to keep making them, so please subscribe and like the video. If you love this sort of content, consider becoming a member. See you in the next one.